Welcome to Buckets. Win total season, baby, brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I'm joined by Michael Fiddle, Fiddle's Picks on Twitter, host of the Sports Betting Advantage podcast.
The Advantage Sports Betting Podcast.
Sports Betting Podcast. Oh, so close to having, so close. Also joined by Bryan Fonseca. Bryan Fonseca NY on Twitter, at Bryan Fonseca on YouTube, where he hosts shows about all sorts of stuff, combat sports, WNBA, and if you're interested in like any type of international basketball, particularly America's, like the America's basketball that is not the United States, but Eurobasket too. Bryan Fonseca is your guy.
And the Asia Cup and Afrobasket.
And those two.
Men and women.
Men and women. He's an absolute sicko. He's an absolute fiend. He's here with us.
And
we're going to do win totals tonight. So the way this is going to work is this is like a best bets episode. So you're going to get a 3-star, 2-star, and 1-star play from each of the three of us because these were both these gentlemen were like, I want in on those episodes. Brandon Anderson and I next week are going to give you Eastern and Western Conference previews that are going to go over win totals. Not for every team, but every team in the conferences that we think that like if we have something on it. So bet, lean, nothing. Brandon and I will do our usual kind of episodes in 2 episodes, East and West. But this is going to be more of a discussion of both how to bet win totals, where to bet win totals, as well as giving you best bets. So make sure to follow in the Action Network app, Fiddle's Picks, and Bryan Fonseca, NY, in the Action Network app. Download the Action Network app. Sign up for Action Pro. We'll talk about that a little bit more later so you can get up to the second picks from all of our great contributors. If you're watching at youtube.com/the Action Network, please give us a like and subscribe because it helps. It helps so much. We are live here on youtube.com/the Action Network. If you're listening to us on the podcast, give us a 5-star review. Appreciate you guys listening on the pod as well. But if you do want to catch the show live, we're going to be going live every night at between 11 and 11:15. Today was 11:20 because I had a lot of stuff I had to do. Eastern every night, and that will continue next week. I'm actually going to schedule Brandon Anderson's shows to go then too with me, and then once we get to the regular season, again, every night, 11 Eastern, Buckets Live. So make sure to be on the lookout for that. Turn on notifications on the Action Network YouTube page so you get them. Also, we will probably set up in the app that they'll go live in the app as well. So check that as well. We start today, though, with some strategy talk about how to bet win totals. And anytime that Michael Fiddle wants to talk about a future, my ears perk up because Michael is disciplined and Michael is the market maestro and Michael is diligent in his approach. But this is a market where he thinks there's real value. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But first, Fiddle, because you're so good at watching the market and seeing what goes on, can you tell me what movement we've had on win totals from the open to now?
Yeah, so I think right when the NBA schedule is released, you start getting the markets to start showing up. So we got some movement. Obviously, there's been some news. So the biggest move on the board is the Miami Heat towards the under. Obviously, that very much correlates from open to now with the Tyler Hero news. But understanding the movement throughout the market, and I'll shout out a bunch of others, is like a key point of strategy towards betting these win totals and knowing which way the direction is for these teams. So what we've seen so far is a 4-win move on the Miami Heat under. The team that had a 4-win move to the over literally had my jaw drop. It is Skinny Zion and the New Orleans Pelicans. So the number has moved 4 wins, and this is all at DraftKings that I'm pulling the data from. But I do want to also say that a win in when you're comparing odds and you're looking across the market and you're like, well, this team's at 37.5 here, but 38.5 here. Which one do I choose? It's minus 130, but here it's plus 115. A win in a win totals market's worth just less than 35 cents. So use that to calculate around the edges about like which number you should take when you're looking through the market. So while the number on the Pelicans has moved 4 wins towards the over, I literally I'm still baffled by that. When you associate the VIG that's correlated in that, it becomes about 2.5 to 3 wins. But that's on face value one of the biggest moves towards the over. The Atlanta Hawks, the Brooklyn Nets, the Sacramento Kings, and the San Antonio Spurs have all been overs in the buyer's market. They've all moved 3 wins. And the ones going 3 wins under are the Golden State Warriors, the Minnesota Timberwolves. That was the only 2. Oh, and the Milwaukee Bucks. That was the 3rd one.
Man, that Warriors one's interesting. The Kings taking over is interesting too.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
the Pels
Yeah.
I get, right? Like the Pelicans I get because we're all kind of suckers for Zion. There's like he's such a fun player to watch. That team has been like when the Pelicans are good, they're really pretty good. Like they made the playoffs 2 years ago. Like they've had some moments when it's like, okay. And so Zion showing up like that is not surprising to me, even though I go back and forth on the roster about whether it's better or worse now. Like I'm very interested in the Pelicans. I'm not going to bet on them because that seems insane either way. But that one's really interesting to me. The Kings taking money that's maybe the most interesting one to me because the rest of them you can kind of be like, all right, the Spurs, everyone's just buying into Wemby and Dylan Harper and like, okay, it's basically just Wemby. But the Kings, that one is very interesting, especially because to me, for this individual, on my schedule influence power rating, I actually have them at 39.5 wins versus a 35 in the market.
Yep.
So like I have them and looking at that number now at 35.5, Bryan, that might be low for a Kings team that I don't know what they're doing. I don't know why you go out. My biggest thing with the Kings is just like, why were you like, we got to get Dennis Schroeder no matter what? We'll trade Jonas Valanciunas for Dario Saric. We have to get Dennis Schroeder no matter what. That's our guy. Like, why? Why?
I think that's a question to answer for international ball Fonseca.
Yeah,
because he's literally a Hall of Famer because of his
Yeah.
international credentials. It's so funny
Well-
that the Kings have 2 Hall of Famers, DeRozan and Schroeder.
And maybe Domantas Sabonis, who knows? I hope they have Dennis Schroeder because they plan on trading him to the Orlando Magic in February. I hope that's why that they have him. Otherwise, it's a little bit of a weird, like, I don't like this roster like that, but they can get 38 wins. Like they clearly have the talent for it. You know what I mean? Like Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, we've seen them together many a times already. Domantas Sabonis, I feel like he gives you a decent floor if he's available. The struggle with him is what he gives you in terms of the ceiling because it feels like that's capped. But you're not going to be the worst team in the league if these guys are there. Malik Monk at this point, don't know what to expect. And Keegan Murray, I feel like this is not like a great fit for him at this point. But I'm intrigued by what Keon Ellis could do as he continues to develop. I'm intrigued by obviously Dennis Schroeder. We talked about his fit, and Nick Clifford, who I thought was one of the more interesting rookies in the draft class. But I don't really want to bet the over, but I can see it. I wonder what the reasons are for that, though. I don't think Nick Clifford and Keon Ellis are driving this. Like, what are people seeing in DeMarcus?
I think the number came out too low because it came out way too low at like 33.5 or 34.5 certain places. I think at this point, Zach LaVine is legitimately underrated. Like he used to be overrated when he was a main trade chip for an absolute superstar. Now he's gone the other way where he's actually really good and pretty efficient. So I think he's quite underrated. The one that surprised me was the Warriors under. Like despite all the recent moves coming through with them bringing in Horford, with them re-signing Kuminga and GP2 and bringing in, Seth Curry. Like I was actually pretty surprised for that one to move 3 under.
I'm not too surprised by that just because I think it's probably just age at this point. Like it has to be. I don't even know what else could it be because Steph is proven, Draymond's proven, Jimmy's proven. The team around him is like I still have question marks about it. I mean, even Al Horford, for example, he's in year like 38, and I don't know what that's gonna look like. And the Jonathan Kaminga thing, I think, is weird, and it's probably weird for people in terms of okay, that all happened, and maybe this is the main driver of it. We just had a summer where Jonathan Kaminga kind of dominated the headlines, despite not really ever proving to be that type of guy to dominate the headlines. And the situation is just, oh, he's coming back. He got paid, kind of, but they'll eventually trade him. And how combustible could this get with already two majorly combustible elements on their roster and Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, who, yes, they want to win, but they also want things to be done a certain way for better or worse. So I think there's age and fit questions that a lot of people have with this team, even though they have Steph Curry.
Yeah, I think if you're just going off of, if you look at the trends for these guys, because they're one of the things that catches us with old teams is you will remember when they look like themselves, and you're like, I watched that game versus whoever, like Steph's still Steph, and this is why like the metrics are really important, because if you look at most of the metrics, you notice he dropped last season. And he went a little bit up this year, but not like back to where he was 2 years before. It's just like a slight improvement. Like Draymond keeps dipping, Jimmy keeps dipping. Like they are headed in that direction, and it's gradual. And it's not like they don't drop off this massive cliff. And the reason that they don't is because they still have nights where they look like Jimmy, Steph, Draymond. But there's a lot of nights where they don't. Like I said this a long time, is age doesn't rob you of your best. It robs you of your consistency. That's what really gets you. And that, I think, is part of this. Another interesting one. So I have two different win projections. One is you take your power rating and you can extrapolate that based off of standards, and you can actually produce an expected wins based off of the power rating. The other thing I do is I actually go through the schedule and give win shares based off of their expected win percentage built off of the power rating differential, factoring in schedule, second night of a back-to-back, opponent strength, etc. This is one of my biggest gaps between the two numbers. So I have them projected on power rating for 48 wins. If I do it by schedule, it drops to 43.6.
So can I chime in real quick? Because
yeah.
The opening number was 47.5 and it's moved to 44.5. So for you to say you have 48 and 43.5, I mean, that's all too ironic.
Yeah.
Real interesting.
So it's like, and I don't think necessarily that that's the same thing that's happened here. I don't know how many people are running an NBA schedule analysis to kind of build this out, but based off of what their schedule looks like, they have a tougher schedule than a lot of others. And this is like, it does kind of show up here in when they play, who they play, because I've got numbers built in there for if you play on the second night of a back-to-back, you get docked. If you play on the third and four nights, you get docked. Now, if the other team is, that also happens. But that to me is just kind of interesting. Now, I'm at a point where I don't really want to bet on the Warriors because I'm like, man, they could be really good. Like they could just be really good. I will say, to kind of Bryan's point about the roster, if Al Horford is off that night, which he takes a lot of nights off because he's old as dirt, they're either starting Draymond or it's Quentin Post again. Kevon Looney's gone. They have no muscle. They have no size. They have no physicality. It is Draymond small ball. And you can get, like, back 4 years ago, you could get away with that. But Houston's running double big. Denver is going to run more double big this season. San Antonio's running double big with Cornette and Wembanyama. More and more teams are running double big. So French Vanilla, that's right. That is an excellent name. By the way, speaking of nicknames, there's a nickname going around for the Warriors lineup, which I absolutely find hilarious, because we all know the Death lineup. Like the Death lineup is known and well regarded and established and all those types of things. And instead, there is the Close to Death lineup.
That's really good.
Somebody hit me with that today, and I cracked up. I thought that was so funny. Okay. So we've talked about the movement, some interesting ones there. Fiddle, for somebody that doesn't necessarily love futures and doesn't get involved a lot unless there is clear value and who is always trying to play the market, why is this a market where not only do you think there's value, but you think alt plays have value?
Yeah, this is the lone space where I would go into those alt markets, and it is clearly the best place to alt market it. So I will explain, why I think there's value in this specific futures market, and then we'll do some nerdy 3-minute gambling math stuff, and I'll have you guys stop me wherever it's confusing, and I'll fix it and chime in and make it digestible for you guys. But from a why is this market valuable? It's because the hold, like you're generally betting into minus 110s on both sides. When you bet into the NBA MVP, you're paying probably 2 times the normal hold rate, and hold is how much is the book expected to make on all of your bets. So sometimes the payouts look really nice because you're getting 20-1, but you're betting into a market with like 9.5% hold or something like that. And so in win totals, if you average out the two sides, you're paying roughly minus 110s each way. And that's, just under 5% market hold. So the amount of money that the book is expected to take on your bets is equivalent to a single game. So you're not getting extra rake on your money, which doesn't ever make sense to me, because I'm like, if this bet is pending wager and you get to hold on to my money for 6 months or whatever, why are you taking more of it on the average dollar? That's so unfair. Like, what other financial world do you put that in? So I'm like, I'm the robot in me is like, I'll just put that in another financial market. The second reason is because these win totals stay available for lots of the season. So hedging and doubling down or repositioning in things like awards can get kind of murky. Or if you're doing player props or person to average a certain amount, like those markets disappear pretty quickly once the season starts, whereas win totals will come up regularly, if not always being there. They'll be there at Christmas, and then they'll be there at the All-Star break for the second half of the season. So you can double dip, you can open the middle, you could hedge, you could reposition. There's other ways to operate within that where you're not just like, it's not an all or nothing ticket. And then lastly, you're going to get this money back, assuming you win, in April. So that, like, if you're betting over and your team hits it with 6 games left, the bet will cash. If you bet an under and there's 7 games under with 6 games left, you will cash that, as opposed to waiting for title futures till mid-June or awards winners when they announce that during the playoffs. So you might end up getting these back at the beginning of April, whereas some of the other ones you're waiting until mid to late June. That also has to factor into the equation of like, how much is it worth to invest this and keep it pending versus just churn my bankroll versus just invest it somewhere else. So it's always been hard for me to justify tying up a lot of my bankroll in futures that I can't, come back on, or paying too much for it, or not going to get it back soon enough. So it's really the robot in me that just approaches this like a giant math equation. And win totals market there's definitely edges. There's definitely moments where you can identify teams that are going to be mid-season buyers and sellers. You could notice these directional trends. You could notice things that are different across the market, and you could really obtain some good stuff. I mean, we did the win totals draft last year, and not to my own horn, 6 for 6 on there, right? So do I think I'm going 6 for 6 or 3-0 today? No, but I do expect to go 2-1 at least.
Okay, I think that's a good estimation of how this stuff works out. I think the alt plays are pretty interesting because we do see very tail end outcomes. I think the Pistons are a great example of this last year that I completely screwed up. Go ahead, Fiddle.
Can I explain to you why this is specifically the place to do alts?
Yes.
Okay. Stop me if this feels confusing. Okay. Just cut me off and say, explain
let me get my whiteboard up. Go ahead.
Okay. The way these markets are priced is this math term from statistics and probability called binomial distribution, right? And so that is when you're looking at a specific series of outcomes with independent trials, each game in a season, with only 2 possible results: binomial, win or loss. Trinomial would be 3, right? We don't have ties in the NBA. So if we think about flipping a coin, right? And if I were to say, Matt and Bryan, we're going to flip a coin 10 times. we can, no matter what, because we know it's 50-50, say 5 heads and 5 tails is the number one most likely outcome. It's not probable, but is the number one most likely. And you could directly calculate that's a 24.6% chance of happening. You could then shift that over and say, okay, what's the variance factor of going 6 and 4? And you could directly calculate 6 heads and 4 tails has a 20.5% chance of happening. You go to 7, and then I'll stop there. You could directly say, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Flipping a coin 10 times and getting 7 heads and 3 tails is an 11.7% chance. That is binomial distribution. So alt markets are literally priced on the concept of binomial distribution as you get further away from the main number. The truth is that is not true for the way the NBA works. You have things like injuries, and then it falls off a cliff. You have teams that vastly overperform, like last year's Pistons. So because there are these edges where it doesn't follow a binomial pattern in terms of winning and losing, but it is priced that way, then there are actually ways and teams that are like, yes, you should alt market this team if you do feel very high or very low, or you see some asymmetry with them to either be a big buyer or a big seller or one injury away from collapsing, then yeah, you should also, if you're going to play it one direction, go a few notches down. And, there's no black and white to it's depending on the odds. It's depending on the situation. You can't just say you go 6 wins lower when you're doing, no. But like, you should go into those alts and go to a place where you can, feel comfortable with it or get the payout you want, and also go in that direction. Because this is priced on binomial distribution, but that is not actually true to NBA wins and losses.
You follow that, Bryan?
Swiftly.
Followed it swiftly. I think from a practical standpoint, we can talk about the Pistons. To me, last year are this great example of why there's value in the alt, where I was so confident in the over, but I was unwilling to give them the possibility of a ceiling, to the point where, Fiddle mentioned you can bet these in season. Like, I hedged against it later. Then now I still came out huge ahead on that win total bet. But when it was like getting out of hand, I was like, come on, there's no way that they're going to be like the 4 seed. No, yeah, they were the 4 seed. They were the 5 seeder, rather. Like, that they were legitimately that good. Like, that's how good they were. And they will, if things go right for a team, they'll go way right. And especially the other way, man. If they go wrong, they're going to go way wrong.
Philly.
Especially because no matter how many times these teams fail in trying to land the draft lottery spot, they're still going to go back to the well, because the EV of every percentage opportunity gained in the lottery is greater than the value of any of these wins once you've been eliminated from postseason contention. And so they will continue to go that direction. And we saw some like outrageous tanking mechanisms last year. The Raptors being one of my favorites, where they're like, fourth quarter, zip, and you're out of there. Like, we saw some really inventive tanking metrics going on, tanking strategies going on last year.
And it's another draft class where we might get 5 great prospects in the top 5, right? So you're going to have a lot of teams wanting to do that. And like, I would say, look at the Bucks for an example. Like, it's no surprise to me they're bet 3 under. Like, what happens if Giannis gets hurt for the first 2 months of the season and then like starts to request a trade? Or like, what happens if Jaylen Brown on the Celtics, hurts his thumb, or like the Wolves with Ant? Like, I haven't bet these ones specifically, but just calling out a few, there's a place with some of those teams where the floor is, 3-4 basements below ground level.
Okay. With that said, let's get some best bets. We're each going to have a 3-star, a 2-star, and a 1-star. But before we get to that, I do want to let you know that we got a special promo for those of you that want to give Action Pro a chance. For just a limited time, you can get 33% off a monthly subscription. So for the price of a week, you're going to get a month's worth of access. You're going to get our NFL prop experts like Sean Kerner and Nick Gibbons picks instantly to always get the best number, which is huge. Plus, with MLB playoffs nightly, Zerillo's been just destroying it. And college football in full swing. Now is a great time to experience all that Action Pro has to offer. You're also going to get stuff like the Pro Signals, which is going to tell you, hey, the money's on this side, but we're tracking sharp moves on the other side. So even though there's money on this one, it's not actually moving the line. We've tracked it moving the other way, which is a really good indicator of where the sharp, smart money is coming in. You can get the Bet Lab systems as well to build your own system plays, and they'll show them to you right there in the app. We've got prop projections, all sorts of great stuff. You'll definitely want Action Pro for when the NBA gets in the swing of things. So give it a shot now. Head to actionnetwork.com/pro today and get 33% off a monthly subscription. We will start with someone who wants to play some alts with his 3-star play, and that's Bryan Fonseca. Bryan Fonseca, what is your 3-star play for our win totals?
I'm not expecting to be tailed on this.
Okay.
I'll preface it by saying that. And I will also preface by saying in our win totals draft, I think I was 5-1 and this was the 1. So it did not go my way last year, and I'm going to bet that I was a year early. But I'm going to go over again because I can't quit them on the Charlotte Hornets. Over 26.5 wins. Got it at 25.5. 26.5 now. Also, I am taking them a couple of alts. One alt. One to get 30 plus wins. DraftKings plus 190. And another to make the play in, which I don't remember what the number was when I got it. It was either 800 or 900. But I'm going to go with backing the Charlotte Hornets once again.
Okay. We both like Charles Lee, and I got talked into some Hornets stuff because Brandon liked them too last year. And the roster...
Can I real quickly, they were like 6-8, 6-7, 7-9, something like that before like literally everybody got hurt. Brandon Miller actually got hurt on opening night.
Yeah.
LaMelo Ball got hurt 1 month into the season. They were straddling 500. They were competitive, and then it all kind of fell apart. So I feel like, if everybody didn't get hurt, Grant Williams, LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Trey Mann, like everybody on the roster pretty much went down. They made a couple trades also, and from there we had no shot. But we're back.
There are 25.5s in the market, including a DraftKings. So get that extra win
still out there
on there. I will a couple things. This is a more veteran roster, so they add Colin Sexton, which I think is a great pickup. Like that's a massive pickup for them. Colin Knippel looks legit. I don't really know what he's gonna be, but whatever he's gonna be, it looks like it's gonna be an NBA player.
He'll support the stars on the team.
It would be like a nice hit for them to actually have a draft pick who's really good. Miller was really good too. Brandon Miller had a great summer. All words are that he's had a great summer. Grant Williams is back. Now Grant's plus minus has been atrocious, but I just think having more veterans is a helpful thing for this squad. Like they look much more like an NBA team now than they did at the end of last season. They've gotten rid of some of the knuckleheads. I am still kind of like, I don't know, man. Like with LaMelo, I'm at the point of, I think he can be an awesome number 2. I am not sure that he is made to be the 1. Like, I don't think it's like I'm trying to envision a scenario, like trying to project in my mind a vision of LaMelo Ball bringing the ball up in a playoff series in a game 6 on the road, down 3-2, and like believing that he's going to do what needs to be done instead of something wild and insane. And I have a hard time there. Brandon Miller, I have a lot of confidence in. And they're getting Trey Mann back, which I think is actually really big. He was like killing it last year. So the roster's better. It's less knuckleheads and fringe NBA guys. So I get this. Projections wise, I have a hard time being able to match up with this because it's just like I've given them so much like, hey, here's an extra 2 points for internal development, and here's 2 points for not tanking, and here's like a point for Charles Lee because I still think he's good, and it's my numbers are still like, yeah, it's like 26 wins. So I can't get there, but I understand why you're there because this is like they are a more serious NBA team now than they were, Brian.
Yeah, they have some adults. I think the Spencer Dinwiddie signing is I don't know how much he's gonna actually play, but he'll help in the locker room. There's a leadership quality to him. Colin Sexton, I mean, if they're not very good, they'll probably just trade him at the deadline and get something for him. But I I I, I think they can be competitive because I think Con Knipple is actually the perfect guy to get who can try to accentuate the positives that LaMelo Ball brings from a talent perspective, and the same for Brandon Miller. Like, he's a great supporting cast guy. He projects to be a high level role player. I'm not sure he's going to be like an all-star, perennial all-star, whatever, but he projects to be a high level role player coming out of the draft. And I think he's kind of perfect to complement LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller so much that they actually work out in tandem. There's a world where Brandon Miller becomes the number one eventually, and maybe that's more ideal for people. I think Brandon Miller is an all-star waiting to happen. I don't know if it's this year, but I think it's within the next year or two. Brandon Miller can reach an all-star game. LaMelo Ball's been there. I think he'll get back at some point. The one thing that I still there's two things here because I actually like going down the line. Like, I also like Josh Green as a fit on this team. Grant Williams, we'll see where he's at. The center position worries me for obvious reasons, and this is where I'm most concerned. I love the energy and effort that Musa Diabate plays with on the glass, particularly on offense. But I don't know if he's like a starting caliber NBA center. Mason Plumlee is not at this point. He's kind of a safe backup third string type of dude, another veteran, but I don't know if you want him starting games. And then Kalkbrenner is the swing guy, where he looks like he might be pretty good, but he's a rookie ultimately. Leo McNeely, we'll see. I'm not expecting a ton from him this year, but he could surprise me. And the one thing is Miles Bridges. He's kind of when you talk about knuckleheads. um, he's the one where I'm like, could you try to figure something out there? Like, because I feel like LaMelo, I think LaMelo, there's at some point, I do think he does want to win and be serious. And I think a lot of what he's had to deal with is health related and also lack of talent around him. Miles Bridges is the one where I'm like, can you get something for him? And then maybe you can really be cooking here. But I don't know if there's going to be any takers. You would know better than me. His contract is also descending and there's one more year left. So it's not an albatross anymore,
Right.
but it's still a loaded situation for, maybe off the court reasons, even if that's quote unquote behind him now.
Some promising numbers. Diabate was 79th percentile in defensive EPM last season. Josh Green in his limited minutes was 73rd percentile. Josh Green is bad on offense, but he is pretty good on defense, and they have more guys to play offense. Bridges was 67th percentile, and Miller was 64th. There's actually kind of this trend that's going on that's really fascinating to me, which is the young teams with newer coaches are outperforming defensively instead of offensively, because it used to be just like, yeah, this team's young and fun, but they can't get any stops. And it's kind of converting to be the opposite, which is like a lot of these teams, like the Wizards, were pretty decent second half of the year defensively. And then you've got the Hornets, who were not, but have some of this potential to go with so much offensive firepower and so much shooting, because you got LaMelo and you got Brandon Miller and you've got Knipple and you've got guys like Man coming off the bench, and even Kalkbrenner looks like he's going to be able to score. Like, you have these weapons, so I think that there's some upside here. Fiddle, no real market movement on this. The minus 0.25 is what I've got it on the average from open to close.
Yep. Yeah,
Today.
I would say if there's any one team that I would alt over, I'm with Bryan. It's the Hornets, because
Really?
Yeah, because Charles Lee is part of that Boston system where like he's just going to ask them to shoot a ton of threes. We saw how many threes LaMelo was taking last season. And he does this sneaky thing that I think every NBA coach should start doing, to the point where then I think the NBA should i- make a rule to stop this. But when he knows he's going to call a timeout while an opponent is shooting the free throws, he doesn't just call the timeout before they get to the line or after the two. He calls it between 1 and 1, and he makes the player step off the line. So it's like one of those weird things that, like, yeah, it might be worth a point here or two in specific games where he gets the miss, because he essentially makes it technical free throws instead of shoot two in rhythm. Um, but yeah, he screws up the game flow, and it's just those little things that I'm like, this guy's a game theory optimal type of coach. So it very much intrigues me, and the numbers just low. And there's, when are they going to start to win? And they're in the East. So if there was one that I was going to alt over, this would be my pick.
Bryan, I will just tell you that if you're going to do this, don't go halfway here, because you got 550 for the play-in tournament, and I think that's a good bet. 40 wins is 11-1 at DraftKings.
I'm always pro choose the alt win market over, like, they need to be in these 4 seeds, or they need to be to make the playoffs. Like, just go with the wins. Don't worry about divisions. Don't worry about,
Well, and that's part of it. You can also stack this, right? It's an escalator, because 30 wins for the Hornets is plus 190. 35 is plus 475. 40 is 11-1, and 45 wins for the Charlotte Hornets in the Eastern Conference is actually, wow, it's not even on the board. It's not even on the board yet. So,
and if they're a 40 win team and you have the 30 plus, the 35 plus, like, you're getting the 30 plus back in mid-March.
Yeah. And the other thing is, to your point, we did this last year where, so I took the Cavs in our win total draft, and I did take all, I don't remember if it was 55 or 60. It was probably 55. I don't know if I did 60. Cavs, Pacers, I didn't take an all for the Pacers. And the Pistons were another over that I really liked. Was another over that I really liked, that I probably should have pushed harder than I did. But 40 feels like a lot, but this is the thing, right? If you just get more health luck, like they had some of the worst health luck last year. Malachi Flynn played 4 games for this team. Like they were just throwing out whoever in March and April when it was silly season and guys were like unrecognizable. We got a lot of KJ Simpson last year, like a lot of KJ Simpson on some nights. Nick Smith Jr. actually played a pretty big role on some nights as well. He's not even on the team anymore, and he was on a rookie contract. And we saw a lot of Salon, who I don't know if he's going to be very good. I hadn't mentioned him until now. He had a really bad rookie season. Maybe he'll be in the rotation. We'll see. That could be another top pick that they squandered. But I do think their front office now has more direction, and I think they have the right coach this time. I do think I echo what you guys said about Charles Lee in terms of what he can bring from not just Boston, but also Milwaukee and other prior experiences. I said this last year when making the case for him. Like, I liked him as a first-year head coach a great deal. And I think the philosophy is there. I think the foundation, the bones of something could be there, but they do need some health luck, and they do need to be like maybe a not bottom 5 defense. Like they can try to be, a better team than what we've seen. But I'm gonna be in on them again. You know what I mean? They were 24th in defense last year. If they can be, I don't know, 18, maybe they can hit some of these markers that we're talking about.
Okay. I can't promise anything because I am potting with Brandon Anderson later this week, but hopefully that's the last time we talk this much about the Charlotte Hornets until at least they play some basketball games. Let's go to Michael Fiddle's 3-star play on NBA win totals. What do you got, Fiddle?
Toronto Raptors over 39.5. And I'll make it quick because we just spent a lot of time talking about the Hornets. But last year, this team covered against the spread, second best in the NBA, only behind OKC. 59% clip ATS. They were an ATS darling, and they show that they could hang with any teams. And then to go one step further, call me crazy, the way they play, this is a copycat league, is probably the closest mimic to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They were the number 1 defense March 1st and on. They are predicated on generating turnovers and pushing that into transition. They guard the 3 very closely, and they just brought in an ISO scorer in Brandon Ingram and extended him for when they do get stuck in the half court sets. So, like, I really think they're following that kind of model. I love Coach Darko as a player development. We saw what he did in Memphis, and then we saw what happened when he left Memphis and Jenkins and staff blew up. So love what they're doing coach wise. Love the players. Think there's internal development and growth. So I'm just looking at this team and it's like Quickly, Barrett, Ingram, Barnes, Pirtle, like Grady Dick coming off the bench. That's a good 6 in the East. That's a playoff team to me. So I think they're definitely an over 500 team. They've been bet 2 wins towards the over already. I don't think they're one to get in the alt market for, because the amount that you'd have to try and acquire is probably too much for where it's already moved. That's why I like the Hornets, because it hasn't moved that much. This is just one that I feel like they're going to be a 500 or better team. So give me the Raptors over. I'd love it. Bet it pretty hard myself.
So I gave them a 3-point bump for reversal of tanking and internal development, which is like, that's pretty generous to give them a 3-point bump here. And it does account for Brandon Ingram being added. Like, I count him as an addition in my numbers, and I still come in under here, which is why I was ready to be very skeptical about it. I will say that as the offseason has gone on, I have bought more and more into this idea. I am very apprehensive about Brandon Ingram led teams. It makes me very nervous. If Ingram does not play his style, if he actually moves the ball, if they have a motion offense, it can be really good. And maybe Ingram's just like ready to take that step and be that type of player, because he has improved so much as a passer. He got to be a really good passer, especially with Zion in New Orleans. And he wasn't a guy that like made everybody better, but his individual isolation passing was good. He is able, his placement is good on passes, and he makes good reads. I love Scotty Barnes. I think he is a monster that we are not really ready to see how good he is. I think he will get back to where he was on track to be 2 years ago. I love RJ Barrett. He had a phenomenal preseason game the other night. I think RJ Barrett is so good and is like this hidden gem that nobody really realizes. I'm not very high on Emmanuel Quickly. I just don't really think that Quickly is that good. Like, I just kind of think Quickly's fine. Grady Dick, there's a lot of optimism about him being able to be like a top level kind of 3-and-D shooter mechanism. And then Colin Murray Boyles has generated a lot of buzz out of camp, because he is apparently just like the most annoying defender ever. Like, every Raptor is just like, I hate being guarded by this guy. And that combined with Pirtle is like a really solid. You're absolutely right on the starting 5. I would have liked to have seen more when you dive into the splits and the wowie stuff of the combinations being like, oh, well, when they had these guys, like, it was really positive. And instead, like, that didn't really happen. It wasn't like, oh, they just had injuries. Even when they had their guys, the combinations did not click. Darko, I am very skeptical of, but I don't know if you mentioned this. I think you did. After the All-Star break, the Raptors were second in defense.
Yeah, I had it first from March 1st on.
Yeah, so after All-Star, they were second.
Similar sample size.
First from March on. That makes me apprehensive, because everyone knows how I feel about March basketball, which is, it's dumb. It's the dumbest basketball on the planet. It's just stupid. But with teams in the Raptors' position specifically, when you have nothing left to play for and you are just trying to build habits, those kind of indicators I do tend to circle a little bit and be like, all right, that's interesting. They built real momentum. Because it is the same thing with the Pistons. I can't have liked it with the Pistons and then not like it with the Raptors because they have Brandon Ingram. I am still very torn on this, because I feel like the number is, it's not comfortable for me. Even if I can find a way to get to the number to make it make sense, even if I make some sort of adjustment to it, it just feels, even in the Eastern Conference, it feels very optimistic because it's like, you said like, well, that feels like a 500 team. Okay, but like not much better than 500.
Yeah,
Like,
I just where's their floor though?
yeah,
They're not a 35 win team at all, right? Especially in the East. So I feel like 500 becomes kind of floor. There's not too much variance to them. I mean, barring injury stuff, but they also have plenty of stuff to potentially be a buyer in the market. So would be
they're
wondering if they do, try and acquire at a deadline type of thing too.
yeah, I think their Pythagorean last year expected, which is always more in line with the win total itself. Toronto last year was at a 30. I'm trying to think like how many games do you want to give them for tanking? This is kind of the thing you want to like
They
look at.
literally purposely put in bad lineups in the fourth quarter and just to make sure they didn't win.
And then they still did. Like Jacoby Walter hit that crazy game winner.
I'm a big
Um,
Jacoby Walters fan. I just think if we talked about so many people on the Hornets bench, I probably shouldn't mention Jacoby Walters, but I might buy his jersey. Big fan.
like here's a good example is, okay, let's take that 30 number for the Pythagorean and let's do the 2.7 is what you multiply point differential by to get wins. It's over average. Okay, let's just do that simple addition, and let's just do 2.7 times 2 and take the 5.4. That still only gets us to 35.4. And I'm just like, okay, that's like a low number. It's like, all right, let's take out the tanking, and then we got to add in the injuries, and then we got to add in Brandon Ingram, and you can get very close, I think, to 39 then. I think you can get very close to 40, 41 then. I don't know if I can get to like 40, a high enough number that I feel confident in it, but I understand. I think a lot of people are going to be on this over. Has this been one of the ones that was bet a lot?
It's been bet two wins over. So like
Yep.
consensus open was about 37.5. And now you said the mode in the market is 39.5. There's 38.5 floating out there. But
There's
yeah,
actually 137.5 still out in the market. So make sure to take a look at that too. Okay. Let's go back to Fiddle. Actually, I have to give one. And I will give my 5-star or my 3-star play here. Because actually, I'm going to not do that because somebody else has it. Let's stay with Fiddle because that's my 3-star play is his 2-star play. Fiddle, what's your 2-star play?
Yeah, and I would have made this 2 3-star plays if I could have. So we're in agreement here. Houston Rockets under 53.5 is also a no-brainer to me. I mean, to ask for a 54 win team in the West, and we're all still unsure what their starting lineup is, and the one position that we're questioning is the point guard. That's just not the way you want to go into the season. I think the Van Vliet injury is going to have more ripples than just his value on the surface. And I get there's like a huge push towards Amen Thompson in like every single betting market and every fantasy realm or just preseason buzz and all that stuff. I just think we're asking a lot of this guy to be a lead playmaker if that's the position he's going to be put in, or Reed Shepherd for that matter. Like, it takes time in the NBA to develop into that kind of playmaker. I think they lost a lot of shooting, even the addition of Kevin Durant for shooting, losing Dillon Brooks. And he used to have the moniker of like, just choose one, make more or shoot less. Just choose one of them, Dylan. Either make more or shoot less. I don't care which, but you got to choose one. He shot 39.7% from 3 last year on over 6 attempts. So the replacement factor of just floor spacing and catch and shoot, it's not as big of a difference as we think, losing Jalen and Dillon Brooks and bringing in Kevin Durant. Like, I understand the defense is going to be good. I understand they're going to go double big, but in the regular season where offense travels and it's going to be a lot of 3-point variance type of stuff, like I can't get to where they're going to be a 54 win team. Love the coaching, love the depth, but like the playmaking aspect and finding that footing early in the season is going to be kind of tough. Maybe they acquire somebody and they have to go through another, reacclimation period. I don't know how we get to 54.5. Numbers already coming down a little bit too. So market agrees. And so, yeah, this one's been a no-brainer for me.
I came to this one late, and I always love the ones that I come to like just before the season starts. And it was funny last year. it was like all of us were doing research and all of us were like, wait, the Jazz are at 29.5. Like all of us at Action were all like, the Utah Jazz have a win total of 29.5. And then you look at the roster and you're like 29.5. So I think that there is going to be a little bit of a movement on this as well. Fonseca, before I give my thoughts on the Rockets, what do you think about Houston and this very, very hefty number at 53.5?
Yeah, I kind of like the under here too, just because of the level of uncertainty, the trusting Kevin Durant's health. Also, like there's an element of this where he just doesn't play a ton of games. We just talked about Brandon Ingram, for example, who, by the way, played 65 games in his career once so far, and that was just his rookie year, which I found interesting. But with Kevin Durant, we talked about earlier this week on Buckets. He's gonna be their late game offense generator. Like that's why he's there. And we can probably pencil in, I don't know how many games he's not going to be there for, 18, 20, whatever it is. Hopefully not much more. And I just have questions about fit. I do have questions about Reed Shepherd. I know, look, a lot of people coming out of the draft had the Reed Shepherd boner. They thought he should have been a number one pick. They thought that he was going to be this, that, and a third. He didn't really show us anything last year. Now he's going to be thrusted into a big spot. He's had some nice moments in the preseason. We'll see what happens when the games get real. I'm not really an optimist or a skeptic. I guess a little bit of a skeptic, but I just want to see it, right? I just want to see it before betting money like, oh, Houston's going to be awesome. I think their defense is still going to be really, really good. Their defense has a high floor. And has the ceiling to be, again, an elite defense. I still think that's true even without Fred VanVleet. But I don't know in the Western Conference if you could just be like, oh, yeah, Houston's definitely going to get whatever it is, 55 wins. When to me, the Fred VanVleet loss, I know he's not always the most efficient, but that's a big loss for a team that doesn't have a lot of guard depth right now. And Amen Thompson, who we all are proponents of and love, is going to be asked to do a lot. And I do wonder, like, what's that going to entail? I think he's going to be ready for a lot of what's thrown at him. But, man, there's going to be just a lot on his plate. And I think Alperen Sengun as well. But I still like this team very much. Like, I think their Western Conference Finals good. I just think they might be a better playoff team than a regular season team, which is fine.
I am my numbers are so bad on them. I'm figuring a lot of I'm trying to basically figure out how do I give teams that are obsessed and basically built on offensive rebounds, how do I account for that more accurately in the model that I've developed? Because it's such a missing gap here that I have them. Let's just say I do not have the Rockets near 53.5 wins. But from a cap standpoint, one, I will mention this. Let's just look at trends. Let's get away from the individual team analysis and let's just look at the trends that we see when we talk about teams that have a win total of 52.5. Going back to 2011 or 2012-13, teams with a win total of 52.5 or higher, 36-20 to the under. It is a consistent trend. It actually, if you narrow it down to basically 50 to 55, because the 55 teams are more likely to go over than the 50 to 55 teams, because these are the teams that it's like, oh yeah, they should be really great, versus the teams where it's like they should be awesome. And we've seen this. Boston wins 60 games, goes 60 games over again. OKC last season expected to win 60 games, or 56 games, wins 68. We see this consistently. But the 50 to 55 range is perilous. That's actually more wins than people realize. So we got the trend on that. Here's the basketball side. The Rockets last season shot 12.4 threes, made 12.4 threes per game. That was not a high number. It ranked 22nd in the league. 12.7 actually was the number. 12.7 threes made per game, okay? If you look at the roster changes and injuries to Fred VanVleet, they have lost 9.4 of the 12.7 that they had. And you're like, KD and Dorian Finney-Smith. DFS, who's hurt to begin the season, by the way. But and older. That only accounts for 4.7. So we're at 12.7. We lose 9.4. We add 4.7. They are in a massive, massive math deficit. And one of the things that's becoming apparent in preseason play, and Rockets fans are talking about this, is they do not have that primary ball handler to get them into sets. Asking Amen Thompson to do this right out of the gate with Reed Shepherd is a lot to ask. It is just a big deal. I asked Mike Conley once, how long does it take you to learn how to play point guard in the NBA? He said 6 years. He was like, it wasn't until year 6 that I felt like I knew what I was doing.
Kyle Lowry chimed in. He's like, more like 8.5.
That's a great joke.
So, I just think this is the number in the range that I want to fade. This is a team that honestly last year I think exceeded expectations. Pythagorean doesn't back me up on that. Pythagorean thinks they were just as good as the win total. I do not feel that they were that good because, especially when you look at the record, they had one of the best records in the league versus the elite squads. And yet we saw what happened in the playoffs. They are not a team that should have had the record they did versus the elite teams in the NBA. So I think there is regression. I think there is a learning curve. If you like the Rockets, if you love them, we talked about Alperen Şengün on the MVP episode. That's a good one to go look at, to me, because Kevin Durant's probably not going to play as many games. So let's go to Bryan Fonseca. And Bryan, tell me what your 2-star play is.
Speaking of teams projected to win between 50 and 55 games, I, the sucker, am going over on the New York Knicks.
Oh boy.
53.5. This is an adventure. I went under on them last year and it cashed. And I don't feel as good as I should feel about 2-star. Listen, the win totals this year I've struggled with compared to last year. Last year I looked at the board, I was like, Cavs, Pistons, Pacers, this is easy. This year, not as much. And the Knicks, maybe it's because I've been covering them too closely at the Post's YouTube channel and such, which, we just did a film breakdown on them, which should be out maybe by the time you're looking at this, if you're not watching us live. I think there's a couple different things here. One, I do think Mike Brown will lean into the depth that they legitimately do have this year that they didn't quite have last year. So that's less of a Tom Thibodeau criticism and more of their roster is a little better now around the edges. Like they did the things I needed them to do to feel better about the roster. For example, Gershon Yabusele is someone I thought they should get. They got him. Jordan Clarkson is someone I thought they should get. They got him. They Malcolm Brogdon as well, and they got him. So I can't really complain on that front. We'll see about the young guys. I'm not feeling great about Tyler Kolek at all. I'm not sure if he's like a long-term NBA player at all at this point. And they got a shit ton of guards now where they don't really need him. And Pacome Dadier, I'm optimistic about what he can be, and he's only 20, but he's still very, very raw and still can't hit an open three-point shot. So otherwise, though, you're in the Eastern Conference and you just won 50, 51, whatever games it was last year. And you have continuity this time around. So there's going to be year 2 of Karl-Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges on the same team. Jalen Brunson's obviously back. OG Anunoby's obviously back. This is going to be his second full season. You still have Deuce McBride coming off your bench, which I think is going to be good. They are starting double big, which I'm a proponent of with Karl-Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson. I think that actually helps. Now, I think one or both of those guys are going to miss time, but I do think the double big lineup is going to help. Where it worries me is Ariel Hukporti, who can be a serviceable backup big. Is he going to be able to man the minutes that Mitchell Robinson's going to not be able to play because you have to play him in stretches? Or more so, what are you going to do if Mitchell Robinson goes down? Because they had Alex Len, they've had him on the preseason roster, and I don't know if you're going to bring him back in the NBA, and expect reasonable minutes. But they have a legitimate top 10 / maybe 11, but top 10 that I feel good about. And I just think the number is a little low. I feel like this can be a 55-win team kind of easily. And the way that they're going to play this year, I do think can benefit them, and they have the guys to do it. It's preseason, so I'm not going to make too much of the games in Abu Dhabi and how much like the offense did look a little better. But I just think this is the top 1 or 2 best team in the Eastern Conference. And even from a regular season standpoint, they should shoot over the win total. 52.5 is just a couple wins too low, I think.
A little bit of juice has been hit a little bit. Fiddle. It's now it's up about 0.8 wins on average in the market from where it opened up. So about a win over. So it does look like the market kind of agrees with Bryan that this team's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's the depth factor. I mean, Clarkson, I call Yabusele the mayor. Obviously, Brian's a big fan of him since he's international Brian. But yeah, I just think I think they did make some good additions. So like, if they do have injuries, they clearly have cover guys for a bunch of spots, which other teams don't have. So that's kind of nice, and should help the Knicks. But on the other hand, you say, do they use that depth to reduce the minutes of players, which has like been what the Knicks fans have been calling for all of the Tibbs era. We'll see. To be determined. I'm very neutral on that one. I don't have any opinion on over or under.
I'm right at the number, so I'm not going to bet the under. What I will tell you is a couple things. I do not think they have continuity, Bryan. I think they have tension. I think that this team did not. I think a lot of these guys signed up for something different, and then Karl Anthony Towns was traded there. I specifically think OG Anunoby is like, look, I was willing to sacrifice for Jalen Brunson. I don't know about sacrificing to be 3-and-D spot up guy for Cat. And the defense, they can't defend if they've got Jalen and Cat on the floor. So they can't be elite defensively. They can be elite offensively with Mike Brown. I think that's definitely possible.
Mm-hmm.
One more thing with the bench that I just kind of want to note. So obviously this week, reports surfaced that Giannis Antetokounmpo at least considered a move to the New York Knicks. That was the team that he was interested in, and the two teams did have a conversation. Though the Knicks walked away believing that the Bucks weren't serious and actually pursuing that trade, which is probably true. They just probably were like, "All right, what's the offer? Like, what does this look like?" And one of the things that's been talked a lot about, Bill Simmons talked about this, is like, look, with the second apron, you can't do this. They have no picks, and the second apron is a problem. Except if you're like me and you're a freak show who pours over all of the little news reports. Over the weekend, Stefan Bondi over at SNY.TV reported
who I work with.
Do what?
Who I work with at the Post.
Who you work with at the Post, reported that the Knicks had taken calls from other teams on Miles McBride. And it was pitched as, well, they've got Garrison Matthews and Landry Shamet and Malcolm Brogdon, and they've only got space for one. And I was like, why would you I like all those players. Well, I like two of those players, and then Landry Shamet exists.
Agree.
Why would you get rid of Miles McBride to make room for those guys?
So can I add to that?
Yes.
I am a little bit confused of not the reporting, obviously, because Bondi is extremely plugged in there.
He's tight.
And we talk to him all the time on the show. But I am confused about, why is Deuce McBride someone being dangled out there? Why is Pacome Dadier being dangled out there and not Tyler Kolek in the same way? Probably because you could actually get maybe a little something for Dadier, not Kolek, who's 24.
Do you want to know why, Bryan?
Tell me what you think.
It's got to be salary cap, and you dodge some apron stuff.
No, that's not what Matt's gonna say.
It is.
He leaned in.
If you add up the salaries for Karl Anthony Towns and Miles McBride, it fits Giannis Antetokounmpo's cap space filler. If you
why is Milwaukee doing that though?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, what's up?
Do my Toronto Raptors get in the three-way deal and be like, we'll take Cat, we will take Cat, and we'll give you guys some assets, and because you have to find a third team to reroute Cat, because he's not going to go pair there with Miles Turner. Like, I don't even think the Bucks are interested. It would be Bryan, to acquire assets.
So Bryan, you're absolutely right that it's like there's no way that the Knicks are going to be able to generate what would be a fair market value offer for Giannis.
He would just have to force his way there.
Yes. The problem is if this gets to a point where Giannis is like, I'm sorry, man, I want out, and I want it to be New York.
What's
and then
Milwaukee
New York's like,
say?
Look, we give you more picks if we had them, but we don't have them. We traded McBride. We got you an extra first. We got 2 firsts for you, and Karl Anthony Towns.
And you get Pacome Dadier.
Yeah, and Pacome Dadier. Right? That's what we got for you. And it's not enough.
So we don't know this after the Luka trade. I do think Giannis is more of a summer thing than a
I don't.
February thing.
I don't.
You
I don't.
He's
don't
not
anymore?
wasting
I don't.
seasons.
I don't think that's. I think if that was the case, Shams would be saying that. I think Shams would have reported it's going to be next summer.
So it
Interesting.
has to be Towns go somewhere to a third team, and then Milwaukee gets assets, right? So
Maybe.
should we? So if, from a win totals perspective, should we be hitting Bucks under 30, like 29.5 under? Because if the floor falls out, the elevator goes
All the
into
way to
the
the bottom.
underground bases that the secret military has.
Yeah, if you can find it, if you can find a number that's like, Bucks absolute bottom, then yeah, if you can find a mine shaft, but only take like the lowest rung of it.
35,
Yeah.
under 35, something
Yeah.
like that. So another thing just about the Knicks. So I do think in terms of offense and defense, I think Mitchell Robinson starting next to Towns will help their defense. Towns' best defense was probably played next to Rudy Gobert. I don't think Mitchell Robinson's Rudy Gobert necessarily, although I think Rudy Gobert is overrated and you know this. But I do think their defense with Mitchell Robinson, if he's there for 60 something games, can be better than 14th. I don't know about much better. I don't think it'll be much better than that. But the offense, the offense was 5th last year, even with Tom Thibodeau. And Boston was ahead of them. Boston, we don't anticipate it's going to be ahead of them this year. Maybe not.
New York's defensive rating last season with Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns on the floor was 117, Brian. You can't save it. You can't.
Again, though, do you think they're going to be 14th for the entire season? Because I think they can be a little bit better than that.
Okay. We will zip along here because we're running long, but I knew that was going to happen because I want to have a good discussion on win totals, and we love win totals here. My 2-star play is you'll hear more about this one on a future show. I'll just go ahead and drop this one for the hilarity of it. Phoenix Suns over 31.5.
I love it, and I bet it myself, Matt.
Let's go. Okay. So a couple things. One, the same reason I'm going to agree with another pick of Brian's last pick, is because I do believe in the fresh air theory. After you have a year from hell when everything goes terribly and everyone's miserable and everyone hates each other, and you just get a breath of fresh air and there's a new coach and there's a new regime and it's that whole problem is gone. There's new personalities. Guys play with more verve. This is a team that does not want to be bad. They do not want to tank to try and get Devin Booker, a 19-year-old, to play with. They want to be good. Devin Booker wants to win now. The roster is basically, everyone's like, yeah, but the roster is all 2 guards and centers. Yes, it is. That's accurate. However, what they do have is they have a high degree of dogs. They have more dogs on this team than you think. Dylan Brooks is a dog. Oso Ighodaro is a dog. Ryan Dunn is a dog. They have absolute dogs on this team, and they will play hard. And if you want proof that playing hard in the NBA regular season will get you wins, look at Tom Thibodeau's career. Jalen Green is going to play a huge role in this team, and I do not want to be banking anything on Jalen Green. What I will say is that I am forced, as much as I have criticized Jalen Green from the moment that kid played his first preseason game, I have been like, this kid has terrible shot. Like, he has terrible shot decision-making. I hate his shot selection more than almost any player in NBA history. Drives me nuts. But we've gone too far where now it's like Jalen Green sucks. And I'm like, no, Jalen Green does not suck. He needs to find a way to be efficient because he's a scorer who's not efficient, and that's a terrible player. But he has skill sets. He has contributed to a good defense, even if his defensive EPM was the worst on the Rockets. He has developed passing skills. He doesn't use them enough. I'm not trying to sit here and say Jalen Green is a reason to buy in on this team. I am saying that with this number, at this number at 31.5, and it's been bet down, there is no scenario I can get to where I think it should be this. My pure power rating is 39.4. My schedule adjusted is 37.2. Like, their schedule's not bad. It's good enough for them to be. They're a little bit worse. Most teams are a little bit worse once you do schedule adjustment. I think this is solidly. I think it's just like this is a 35 to 40 win team, maybe 43 if things went absolutely. If Booker has a bounce back season, Malawash hits, and they get a better season from Jalen Green as he's a young player devolving, this is a great buy low opportunity. This is the exact type of number that I want to get in on. Brian, what do you think?
I kind of like this. Yeah,
Let's
I think you
go.
sold me. I think you sold me. You missed one dog too. My boy Nigel Hayes Davis. Speaking
Yes,
of
Nigel
overseas,
Hayes Davis. Yes.
Back in the league after being amazing, just a real like hustle guy, and being a EuroLeague champion and a Final Four MVP last year. Nigel Hayes-Davis back in the NBA.
Since
No,
2011-12,
yeah.
teams with a win total between 30 and 35 are 22 and 15 to the over. It is one of the few spots where there is value to be found on the over. It's really weird, Fiddle. There are key numbers in win totals. I swear to God there are. And you see them
I'm for it.
consistently.
Because I think you start to see, so all of these futures markets are correlated for the most part. Like if a team is taking steam in title odds, then they're going to take steam in win total markets, because if you're, you know, fourth ranked in title odds, you can't have the eighth highest win total. Like the markets won't do that. They will start to match and reflect each other. So a team like Houston or a team like the Knicks, like the teams that are a little bit title bound, like in terms of where they might be at the end of the season because of the weak Eastern Conference, or because this team plays really physical, they might be set up for, you know, just the playoff format. Their regular season number might be off and be inflated to see that. So you might, you know, saying that you see 50 to 55 win teams consistently go under, and these, you know, the low 30 teams consistently go over. I mean, they're correlated too, because the Suns and the Rockets are going to play 4 times. And so you're going to start to see that. And I just on the Jalen Green thing, this has to be one of the best coaching changes for him. Like he was in, it's akin to Kerr and Kuminga, right? Like you had to play Jalen Green, and there wasn't many other options for when Ime was building that team, but that's not an Ime type of guy. And so you bring in Jordan Ott from Cleveland, and you're like, there's going to be some offensive innovation here. There's going to be some like more movement. There's going to be some more transition stuff for Jalen Green available, more catch and shoot opportunities. And so I'm totally fine with like this being the buy point on Jalen Green. Like, yeah, I don't think he's fantastic, but I also think we've gone way too far on both him and Dillon Brooks in saying like these guys, you know, like Dillon Brooks is going to be out of the league. He gets an $80 million deal. Like people know, like he's actually an amazing defender. He's become a good floor spacer. He's great on Team Canada with his efficiency too. So like, I just think both of them and what they did for Kevin Durant, it's not name value. It's not brand value. It's not a Gucci bag. It's the knockoff Gucci bag, but it looks kind of the same when you're walking down the street.
I also want to add on Jordan Ott, because I did cover him when he was with the Nets early on in his career. Like I am optimistic about what he can bring in terms of creating a fun Suns offense that's different from what we saw in terms of just the plotting and the mid-range heavy stuff. I think he'll be more forward thinking in terms of spacing. Like he was a video coordinator for Mike Budenholzer. He was on the Hawks staff. He was with Kenny Atkinson in Brooklyn, obviously, as mentioned. He was in Brooklyn for a while. He was with Kenny again last year in Cleveland. I think their offense, dare I say, could be kind of fun this year. So if this over hits, I think it'll largely be because like they're doing some cool stuff on offense, and maybe they sneak into the play-in.
Hornets overs, Hornets and Suns overs. What could possibly go wrong? Let's hit the. Go ahead, Fiddle. What's up?
I was just saying, last thing is like they don't have a 2 guard, but I mean they don't have a point guard per se, but like they've put Booker in that situation in years past. So like he should be able to stay afloat and be a main playmaker.
Less worried about their point guard situation than Houston's.
Yeah, Colin Gillespie
for sure.
Secretly pretty good. All right, we're gonna breeze through our 1 stars. Let's hit Fiddles.
Mine is the Portland Trailblazers under 34.5 in a league predicated on offense, and offense is what travels. This team just doubled down on defense. They got rid of Ayton on a buyout deal. They got rid of Simons and brought in Drew Holiday, and they are using those 8 minutes to give more run to Donovan Clingan. They are going full defense, and I just don't think that's what you should do. I'm not a fan of Chauncey Billups. They went on this 10-1 streak in mid-January to early February that literally saved Chauncey's job. Like he would have been a mid-season fire guy last year, at least end of season. He's gone. And they went on a 10-1 run and were reinvigorated. And it was like, oh, all flowers and glory. They ended up this just in the calendar year, including that 10-1 run. They were 25-25 in the 2025 calendar year. So like it was washed away. And I don't like what they did in the offseason. Apparently I'm not a draft Nick. I'm not a draft expert, but a lot of people said they reached on Young Hansen. And so I'm not going to, one, like sneaky suspicion that I have, and if you made it an hour 14 minutes into the show or the podcast, you stuck around in our real one to hear this. The team was for sale this offseason.
Yep.
And they went out and everyone says they reached
Oh, I love
people
this
who
take.
know the drafts,
Yes.
and they took the Chinese player.
I love this take.
And that's going to bring up your market value for your
It's a
sale.
genius
Like
take. It's a
it,
really
it
great
just is. Like this is a business. Like it's just
Hey,
it's
kid's
at the
good.
end of the day, it's a business.
That's the
And
other
so-
thing too. He wasn't projected to go in the first round. Like, it was shocking, but I think you're right. But also, he looks
he's
like
good.
he's gonna be better than.
It's a mix of both, but I don't think that's producing wins in its first season. Like Şengün was
I
like,
agree.
oh my God, he looks like baby Jokic in his first few years, and it wasn't producing wins. Like it's going to be akin to that. But like, yeah, I'm so sold on this Portland Trailblazers. I don't think Scoot is the guy, right? I don't think they're going to be leaning so hard on Shaedon Sharpe and Denny to be generating offense. So like, I just can't see it with this team. I think they're worse than last year's team, which was a 35 win team. So I'm definitely on the under.
I can't remember anybody whose the perception of a coach changed as much as it did. Like in November,
Jason Kidd.
Everybody, that's a good point. In November, everybody around the league was like, yeah, Chauncey's probably not going to make it out of the month. Like he's just probably not going to make it. And then they won some games. But yeah, I am with you on this. I don't know if I'm going to bet it because I've got it real tight, but I think it's a really intriguing bet. Bryan, you're 1 star.
Over on the Miami Heat. It's too low. 36.5 is too low. Like I get it. They won about 37 games last year, but the Jimmy thing is real. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. The Jimmy thing is real in terms of like that. Matt, you could attest to this because you've covered the league longer than I have. That shit just wears on people, especially him. Like especially him and the way he does it. And it weared on Bam in particular. I could speak to that, but it weared on everybody. War on everybody. Weird. Khalil Ware, by the way, went crazy tonight against the San Antonio Spurs. I just think this is a team that's gonna be they might be in the play-in again. There's a world where like I've entertained the possibility where they win 45 games and they're the 6th seed, and Spo actually returns to form, because I don't think Eric Spoelstra's been Eric Spoelstra like for the last 2 years. Now you can figure out why that is. Maybe it's the Jimmy situation, maybe it's other situations, whatever the case may be. I don't want to go deep into that, but I do think it's been a challenge, and a big part of it's been the roster and the cohesion there or lack thereof. And I think this year it's going to be more of a roster that he can tinker with in a way that he is good at doing, so to speak. I'm more optimistic than Matt, for example, about Nikola Jovic, who didn't have a great game tonight, but he did have a couple pretty good games in preseason. Eurobasket, he had a positive experience. It was good, particularly in the game where Serbia had a do or die game with Finland in which they died. But the Nikola Jokic and Jovic actually came through for them, and nobody else really did, and that's why they lost. And he got his extension, so I actually feel like they're going to play him and start him most likely to at least begin the season. I like the Norman Powell pickup. The Tyler Hero thing, Matt, this doesn't really scare me much. They've done a ton of winning without him. Granted, Jimmy was there for a good deal of that, but I don't think he's going to swing win totals in a dramatic way for me. And he'll also be back after the first month or two if you're really that worried about him. So like there are a lot of elements there, but we're trying to wrap up here. But I think this is at least a slight over. They're probably 500-ish.
The reason this is not one of mine is because I already bet it, Bryan. I already bet this is a 3-star bet over the summer for me. I hit it at 36.5. I have them good. I have them as a good team.
45 wins?
I have them currently projected.
I bet it too, and I feel like it's one of those ones where the market movement's been under. Like, it's by point.
Yeah.
Yes.
My power rating is 46. My schedule is 43. So either way, got enough clearance here. I like this play a lot. Norman Powell can duplicate Tyler Hero until he gets back. I'm not anti-hero like you are. And finally, the last one, because it's hilarious and I am serious about it. My 1 star is the Los Angeles Clippers over 48.5. I have the Clippers winning 58 games and being the 2 seed in the Western Conference. That is where all of my numbers indicate that they should be for this upcoming season. They have redundancy. If the old guys are hurt, the young guys will play defense. If they need offense, they have enough weapons. Kawhi's coming into the season healthy. He does not going to be bothered by all this because he doesn't care, because nothing will ever bother him. Now, it's possible that Kawhi gets suspended and then has his contract voided, but the reality is that's probably not going to happen until next summer. This is a one-shot deal. The Clippers are all in. I think they're going to live up to it. I like the over on the Clippers by a lot at over 48.5. I'll probably take some alts on that as well. That's going to do it. Thanks for hanging in with us. I know a little bit longer episode, but I thought it was worth getting into the weeds on how to bet win totals and why there's value. My thanks to Michael Fiddle at Fiddle's Picks, Bryan Fonseca at Bryan Fonseca MY on Twitter and Blue Sky, at Bryan Fonseca on YouTube, and catch him on the New York Post YouTube page as well. They do watch-alongs during Knicks games. They do special shows, lots of stuff. Check him out there. We'll be back tomorrow with an NBA championship draft, East, West, and title. We're going to get into that and do a little four-man draft tomorrow night. Catch us here live on YouTube at 11 o'clock Eastern at youtube.com/The Action Network. My thanks to David Payne, our producer. My thanks to all you guys for hanging out with us. Hit with a like and subscribe on the way out. We'll see you guys again tomorrow. Till then, let's get buckets.